yeah?
It's here, Joe.
That's the key? Sure. Golly, golly, zoom, golly. And then do you want to just go into Shabbat Shalom then?
How about I'll look at you?
Okay, I'll watch you. And until you look at me, we're going to do Zoom Golly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes.
You the boss. Well, I didn't say at your home you are. I said, It says already.
They got the right books.
Hi. That is so good to see you.
Nice to see you. It's so fun to see you.
Right, well, it's about that time. Let's welcome the Barish.
We're Zoom Golly.
Well, all right.
First.
Well, let me resume. This one.
This one.
Zoom golly golly golly, zoom golly golly, 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 zoom golly golly golly, zoom golly golly. Zoom golly golly golly, zoom golly golly, zoom golly golly golly, zoom. Just you. Zoom golly. Oh, you keep going. Zoom golly golly golly, zoom golly golly, zoom golly golly golly, zoom golly golly, zoom golly golly golly. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. One more time, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Zoom, golly, 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 zoom, golly, golly, zoom, golly, 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 zoom, golly, zoom, golly, 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 zoom, golly, golly, zoom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good to be together with you. We're going to get ready to welcome this Shabbat as we make our way into our service together. If you'll join me, please, for the opening meditation on page 1. On page 1 of our prayer books. Through the open door, light beckons. We pause at the threshold and see the ark and say with Jacob, "This is a holy place, and I did not know it." As we enter, we leave all the petty frustrations of the week. We gather with minds cleared of useless fretting, with hearts open to the wonder of worship, with the soul prepared for the beauty and peace of Shabbat. The light of faith fills this space as we join Jews everywhere in this weekly ritual of renewal. We prepare to pray. And as we prepare to pray, I will ask you to take just a moment to make sure that your cell phones are off so that we can be truly prepared and truly together with a united purpose and a unified community as Shabbat begins and we make our way into our service. As you're taking care of that, it is my pleasure to invite the Granoff family up to the bima to lead us in a meditation before the lighting of the Shabbat candles. As they make their way up to the bima, we'll prepare for the lighting of the Shabbat candles on page 2.
As the Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We'll continue taking just half a step back in our prayer books. Lecha Dodi can be found on the page right before page 1.
Lecha Dodi, Lekrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Lekavela. Lecha Dodi, Lekrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Lekavela.
Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad Hishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad Shemo tiferet v'litchila
Lecha Dodi, Lekrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Lekavela. Lecha Dodi, Lekrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Lekavela. Lekrat Shabbat, Le'uv Necha, Ki mekor ראש מקדם נפסוחה סוף מעשה המחשבה תהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת לקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת לקבלה.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה
לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת לקבלה לקראת כלה, עיני שבת לקבלה.
Remaining standing now, let's take just a moment to wish a Shabbat Shalom to someone nearby. That's a lot of people here.
Shabbat Shalom.
On page 3 of our prayer books, we welcome Shabbat and we call ourselves to worship on page 3.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai, HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMorach, Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam, 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 Le'olam va'ed. Ya la la.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim B'chochma Poteach She'arim Uvitvuna Meshane Itim Umachalif et Hazmanim Umesader et HaKochavim B'mishmerotehem Barakia Kirtzono Borei Yom V'Layla Kolel Or Mipnei Choshech V'Choshech Mipnei Or Uma'avir Yom Umevi Layla Umavdil Bein Yom Uvein Layla Adonai Tzvaot Shemo El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Ata Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. On page 5, we'll continue responsively. The Torah is a tapestry which can adorn the days in which we dwell.
Let us embrace it. Weave its text into the texture of our lives.
Its teachings sustain us, its beauty delights us when we open our eyes to its splendor.
It is not a mystery far beyond reach. It is not in heaven beyond our grasp.
It is as close to us as we allow, on our lips, in our heart, integral to our deeds.
Let us study its words, fulfill its commands, and make its instruction our second nature.
It is the tangible gift of God's love. Weave its text into the texture of your lives. Page 6.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema
You may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות תחתיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We cannot find redemption until we see the flaws in our own souls and try to efface them. Nor can a people be redeemed until it sees the flaws in its soul and tries to efface them. Whether it be an individual or a people, whoever shuts out the realization of one's flaws is shutting out redemption. We can be redeemed only to the extent to which we see ourselves.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהיו עושה פלא, נורא תהיו עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם.
On page 8, this meditation before the musical setting of Hashkivenu. Can they lie down in peace, who sleep upon a grate at night, who sift through garbage for their meals and hold up signs for work at street corners? What troubled dreams are theirs? Spread over them the sukkah of your peace, to warm them in the frigid night with the knowledge of your presence.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom, L'Shalom, L'Hamidenu Malkeinu L'Chaim. Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
Our prayer continues on page 9, and it is a delight for me to invite Noah Granoff to the Bima. Noah becomes bat mitzvah this weekend, so she will be our leader of prayer for this Amidah. As she makes her way up, we'll begin our prayer on page 9, but just a note that the Hebrew that Noah will be chanting is slightly different from the Hebrew in your book. We're on page 9. Why don't you come in the middle here? Please rise.
Adonai sefaita tifta ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Chakol, ve'Zocher Hasdei Avot ve'Imaot, Umevi geula livnei b'neihem, lema shemo be'ahava. Melech Hotzer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham ve'Zrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav le'Yoshia, Mashiv harua omorid hagashem, Mechakel hayim bechesed, Mehaye hakol berahavi pravim, Somech noflim verofech holim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishene yafa. Michamo haba'al gevurot, umidom elah, melech meimit umechaye, umatzmiya Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah l'chahayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mehaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shim hakadosh, Ukdoshim b'chol yom Yehallelu Selah. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. Responsively now in the middle of page 11. We thank you, O God, for your gift of Shabbat, for the sanctuary in which we observe it, and for the dear ones with whom we share it.
Shabbat gladden our hearts, may its peace quiet our spirits.
Bring us closer to one another in love, with laughter and soft words, with shared concerns and mutual respect.
Help us to live in the days ahead, that you may look upon all we have done and find it good and worthy of your blessing.
We'll take just a moment now for our own individual prayer. You may find the meditations on pages 12 and 13 useful in your meditation, or you may just like to take this moment quietly, alone with your thoughts, allowing your heart to pray its own prayers. We continue in silence. The words for our Misha Berach this evening can be found in the margin on page 13. That's where you'll find the words, and the spirit behind this prayer can be found within. This is a chance for all of us to take just a moment to turn our thoughts to the people that we know, the people that we love who are in need of healing on this Shabbat. We offer this prayer on their behalf, on behalf of those who are struggling and those who are suffering, the ones making their way through pain and making their way through recovery. We turn our thoughts and our prayers to them. And on this Shabbat, our congregational family offers these prayers on behalf of Lasser Avla, Florence Berger, Bradley Borden, Jeffrey Feinstein, Buster Feldman, Alan Garber, Don Gorowitz, Don Grobart, Sarah James, Nicole Klein, Beverly Kovnat, Lawrence Levy, Michael Marcoux, Liba Reisman, Rebecca Risch, Alex Smoots Thomas, Eugene Wilkenfeld, Roger Williams, Jerry Zackham, Yisrael Moshe ben Ruta Masha, Baila bat Baruch Vehuda, and Shoshana bat Chana. We sing and pray together. Friends, just a few brief announcements. If you picked up a Shabbat handout on the way in, as I hope you did, you'll see some more information about all of these upcoming events and more in there. And there's, of course, always plenty more information to be found on our website. But just a few quick items to highlight. First, at the conclusion of our service together, we'll be offering the blessings of Kiddush and Motzi together as a community. So a word of gratitude to the Granoff family, whose generosity and joy at Noah's Simcha will allow all of us to offer these blessings together. Their family has provided the challah and wine for this week's blessings, and we're very grateful. A couple of other things coming up that I'd love for you to take a look at. On Sunday morning, my class, my love, sex, and marriage class will resume at 10:30. We finished the love part, so you can come right for the juicy stuff that follows. Sunday morning, 10:30, come and join us. No fees are required, but if you can RSVP online so I can know to make enough copies. It's been a great class so far. We'd love to have you join us for the rest. Also, our trip this summer to Europe is still open. You can still register for the tour that will take us through the cities of Prague and Vienna and Budapest. It should be a terrific opportunity. We'd love to have you with us. I would love to have you with us. But the deadline for registration closes on February 11th. Please consider joining. Take a look at your calendar for the summer. I would love to have you with me to tour these amazing cities and learn much more about the extraordinary history of those communities. Lastly, we're just 2 weeks away from a visit from Rabbi Dr. Gary Zola, the head of the American Jewish Archives in Cincinnati, who will be serving as our Barish Limud Scholar in Residence. Co-sponsored by the Jewish Federation of Greater Houston in partnership with the Barish family and Chair King, Dr. Zola's visit will include 3 opportunities for study during the weekend of Friday, February 15th, including Sunday the 17th at Yom Limud. And in addition to all of that information, just a deeply personal and very enthusiastic plug for you to come hear Dr. Zola. He is an extraordinary teacher and a real mensch, was a great and beloved teacher of mine, and was Rabbi Silk's thesis advisor as well. So I'd love to have you come get a bit of the pleasure of learning with Rabbi Zola when he's here in our community the weekend of Friday, February 15th. And now a word about this day's role in the Jewish calendar. We find ourselves this Shabbat in the Torah portion called Mishpatim, which is a Hebrew word that means laws, and it's a portion that truly lives up to its name. These few chapters of Torah contain dozens and dozens of laws. And from all of the laws in this portion, you can trace the roots of countless areas of modern Jewish law. Jewish law about abortion and capital punishment, about torts and damages, criminal negligence and liability, medical ethics, family and estate law, about interest-bearing lending and sustainable agriculture. It's all in there. Now, back in the 12th century, Maimonides went through the whole Torah and sifted through the whole thing methodically, separating all of the Torah's material by genre. He pulled out the legends and the genealogies. He pulled out the stories about the patriarchs and the accounts of the ancient kings and prophets. He removed the stories about wars and trade dispute, so that all he had left at the end of this process was a collection of just the laws, just the Torah's legal material and nothing else. So he took that material and put it into a single book that he called Sefer HaMitzvot, the Book of Mitzvahs. He counted up all the laws. There are 613 of them, you may recall. And he organized all of those 613 into two sections. First, the positive commandments, those are all the thou shalts. And then all the negative commandments, those are the thou shalt nots. Now what's interesting is that one of the commandments from this week's reading shows up in both categories. Both the thou shalts and the thou shalt nots. And that is the Torah's commandment about how to treat a stranger. It is both a positive commandment because the Torah states affirmatively that you should love the stranger, and a negative commandment because the Torah commands us not to wrong or oppress the stranger. And in both cases, on both sides of the ledger, the reason for that mitzvah is the same. Treat the stranger in this way because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So the symmetry of this mitzvah, both positive and negative, is elegant and appropriate, and it fits, I believe, with the twin human experiences that all of us have known, feeling alienated and feeling at home. The same person can, in his one life, experience oppression and pain and still find himself paradoxically in a position where he can oppress others. The Torah knows that human experience, human fortune, is fickle, and so it addresses both sides. You must love the stranger, and you must, too, refrain from oppressing him. Remember your own history of suffering, but you cannot ignore the reality that you have grown past slavery into a position of power and privilege. I preached about this portion 2 years ago. That was in late February of 2017. And if you can remember the 50 or so that have passed since then, you may recall that in February of 2017, our Jewish community found itself hunkered down against an intense wave of threats and violent rhetoric directed against synagogues and Jewish institutions across America. We saw racist and anti-Semitic graffiti, hostile attacks sprouting up on social media, and demonstrations filling the streets of our nation that express the most vile and hateful ideas that people can voice. I spoke about this parsha on that week because 2 years ago, the other rabbis in the Houston Jewish community and I had received a letter from some 24 leaders of the Houston Muslim community who wrote to us to express their support and their solidarity with our community as we made our way through the difficult new reality of anti-Semitism and vandalism and hate speech. Part of what they wrote was this: "We stand next to you, saddened and shocked by the actions of those who have not had a chance to learn about you, your families, and your faith. Know this day, and know this always. An attack on a person of Jewish faith is an attack on all of us. We will always stand together. The practice of cultivating kindness and love for the other is central to the Jewish mission and Jewish spirituality. And I remember vividly how powerful it was to see this principle lived out in another community of faith nearby. For me, that letter helped cast new light on the dual nature of this mitzvah that Maimonides suggested more than 1,000 years ago, reminding us of the ever-changing and unpredictable nature of human experience. The one who is needy today can provide for others tomorrow. As it turns out, maybe unsurprisingly, this year, as Parshat Mishpatim is upon us again, our Jewish community has the opportunity this very week to offer comfort to the same neighbors who comforted us 2 years ago. We recently heard the news from our neighbors in Katy that their mosque had been shot at several dozen times. And just a couple of days ago, 18 bullets were fired into the family home of one of its members. Thankfully, despite all of the gunfire at the mosque and at that family's home, no one was hurt. But we remembered what it felt like for our community to receive a letter of support. We remembered what it felt like to be assured by others that an attack on one of you is an attack on all of us. And so this week, it was our turn to write a letter of support. Our letter was signed by about 35 rabbis in the Houston community. It was signed by some of our cantors and by the executive leadership of the Jewish Federation, the AJC, and the ADL. And our letter read in part, "Both of our communities know what it is like to face persecution because of our faith. We know what it's like to be hated, targeted, and terrorized. Our faiths share so much. Sadly, we share this too. You do not stand alone. We are here with you. We stand with you." I share this story with you partly because I want you to know what we rabbis do when we're not leading services, partly because I want to provide a preface to the extraordinary teaching on this parsha that Noah will offer us tomorrow morning when she leads her community in prayer and study, and partly because when the Torah is upheld and when Torah is lived in real life, I want you to be able to recognize it. This imperative to treat the other with kindness and empathy, to let your experience of suffering be the thing that softens your heart to the suffering of others, rather than the force that hardens your spirit into a posture of aloofness or vengefulness. When you have been a stranger, and all of us have been a stranger, when you've been a stranger, to find a friend or to discover to your delight that a friend has stepped forward to stand by you is a great blessing. The Torah's wish for us is that we remember our suffering for a specific productive reason, that our experience of living life at the margins can become a generator of intensely refined empathy. It can grant us new vision, new perspective on our own experience and on the experience of others who have come to our aid when we needed them. One of Judaism's most pressing questions to all of us is how we will hear Torah speaking to us today, what we'll hear it asking, what we'll hear it commanding us to do. The Torah invites us to revisit our own experiences, to see in them meaning and potential and significance that we may not otherwise have known was there. How do we understand what our past means? And how will we use it? What do we see in the helpers who appear when needed? And what of them do we want to implant inside ourselves and our children? Will we offer help when we see another struggling? Will we open our eyes to the burdens borne by others? When we see them, lost and alone, can we see ourselves in them and come stand nearby? What will we do with the freedom that is ours? When Maimonides compiled that book of mitzvot 1,000 years ago, he showed us that the obligation to care for the stranger echoes in two separate forms. And in our lives today, we may find that commandment refracted in countless different ways, like light through a prism. Our job is to let that light shine in and through us, so that in our own unique and precious way, we will use our lives and our days to write new entries in the book of mitzvot. Shabbat Shalom. So you'll make your way with me now to page 14 of your prayer books. We'll rise together for Aleinu L'Shabeach, page 14.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר וחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
At this time, our thoughts turn to those whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. Our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We now have the privilege and the duty to recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. On this Shabbat, we recall the yahrzeits of Sidney Albert, Charles R. Applebaum, Emmanuel Bender, Sam Bernhardt, Thomas Birmingham, Esther Friedman Blonstein, Sarah Braitman, Bertha Brody, Rosalind Canfield, Ruth Kaplan, Louis Coburn, Jeanette Cohen, Seymour Slugger Cohen, Samuel Paul Kaminsky, Ben H. Daly, Molly Zax Davis, Jerry Dipner, Catherine Z. Epstein, Mitch Ettinger, Lala Feigelson, Danny Fleshman, Lillian Fox, Jake Fradkin, Sylvia Weil Fradkin, Sidney S. Frank, Samuel Friedlander, Rudolph Fritzhand, Daniel W. Furman, David Gabe, I. H. Gardner, Louis Goldberg, Morris Gordon, Merle Mickey Granoff, Marvin Greenberg, Anna Grimes, Rachel Henrietta Groner, Sophie Grossman, Annette Harris, Ronald B. Harwood, Gregory Scott Hyman, Zachariah Joseph, Aaron Kalmans, Hortense Kamen, Irvin D. Kaplan, Conrad Connie Kaplan, Samuel Kaplan, Milton Kardish, Murray Claff, Frida Kleiman, Lillian Klein, Sarah Cole, Joseph Kramer, Sanford Ilack, David Ira Lampy, Myrtle LeBeau, Jacob Loeb, Charlotte Alter Lobel, Howard Marcus, Mabel Siegel Masson, Stuart B. Miller, Sarah Miller, Sheila Newar, Esther Balfour Oshman, Irene Pagel, Jerry Paul, Evelyn Bernhardt Perlmutter, Esther Pianin, Pearl Plotkin, William Travis Plumley, Hilda Pohl, Milton Samuel Popkin, Harry Pulaski, Jeanette Rosen, Morris Rosen, Pauline Rosenau, Sam Rosenberg, Rose J. Shaps, Tamara Shine, Daniel Schlanger, Sandy Siegel, Joseph Seitz, Julia Sepper, Leona Scheinberg, Arthur B. Schellist, Selma Silverblatt, Michael Spillane, Evelyn Tizer, Jeannie Daly Vogelfang, Dorothy R. Weingarten, Arthur B. Westerman, Albert Wiesenthal, Sidney Wingrad, Frida Wolochin, Ruth Ann Wolochin, David Wolowski, Bobby Yaffe, Kenneth Young, and Mildred Zlotnick. The memories of all of them are with us. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we rise to praise God with the ancient words of Kaddish on page 16, Mourner's Kaddish, page 16. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chaye chon uv'yomei chon uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru
We'll continue with the blessings of Kiddush and Motzi. I'm going to invite Noah back up to the bima along with Mason and her cousins to help us with these blessings of Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon inhilanu. Zikaron lemase vereshit, ki hu yom tehila lemikraye kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, Inhaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Ashad. Amen.
Take a sip.
It's grape juice.
All right, now let's do Motzi. I'll take that. Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min
close with?
Al Shlosha Devarim.
Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam omed, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam omed, Al HaTorah ve'al ve'avodah, ve'al gemilut hasadim, Al HaTorah ve'al ve'avodah, ve'al gemilut hasadim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam omed, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam omed, Ha'olam omed, Ha'olam omed.
Our congregational benediction is on page 17 of our prayer books. As we leave your sanctuary, O God, we acknowledge that wherever we go, we are in your presence. We pray that our actions will reflect this awareness.
As we know your nearness, so may we also be touched by your goodness.
In moments of temptation, give us strength. In hours of doubt, renew our faith. In days of weariness, give us courage.
Clothe our lives with charity, deepen our lives with loyalty, hallow our lives with integrity. So to live that the radiant spirit of your holy Shabbat will add brightness to all our days and bring light to us and to those whose lives touch our own.
As we leave the sacred space, we ask God's blessing upon one another with ancient words hallowed by time. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God deal kindly and graciously with us.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom.
May
May
God
God bestow favor upon each of us and grant all of us the gift of shalom, the gift of
peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Ave, ave, avodah.